Hey everyone, Duke Nougat 3D here with another mask to review for you guys, and this one is not going to be as much a historical review as more of a mechanical analysis of what I deem is probably one of the better surplus masks you can get for under $20, or $30 depending on where you are. So this is a mask that everyone should probably be well familiar with by now, and that is the Finnish M61, which is the third model. Presumably, there's actually more somewhere around like 4 or 5 models if you consider slight hardware and molding differences, but I'm not going to get into that right now. What I'm going to talk about is the acute mechanical advantages to this very simple and cheap surplus mask, which deems it, in my opinion, probably one of the best of the M9 clones for various reasons. So let me get into that. Again, not going to discuss this historically. There's probably a variety of other YouTube channels and videos that talk about this mask more in depth and probably give a better analysis of its history. But anywho, this was Finland's standard protective mask for quite some time, beginning obviously in the early 1960s and lasting well into the 1990s, possibly even later. Again, I'm not entirely sure on that. And that's really all in the history I need to cover. So getting into the kit, and why I think this is probably, if you can't afford something like, say, any standard US service mask, like an M40 series mask, or a MSC Millennium, or even like, or like a Avon S10, FM12, or obviously the 50 series. My point is, if you can't afford a decent mask, this is probably one of the better ones that you can get for cheap, and will still probably have some level of protection. However, I don't want to say that for sure, because again, surplus dealers will vary, and typically the idea of surplus is it's military stocks which have failed their inspection and need to be disposed of and liquidated, and so people in charge of doing that disposal do not destroy the masks, but instead turn around and profit off of them. And so you have a lot of cases where surplus masks are either defective or ineffective, so on and so forth. But and so in this case, I would definitely recommend anyone pick up a banana oil test kit. Well, I would recommend anyone do that when buying a protective mask. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get into the actual review. So the mask, feeling in the hand, is actually one of the better quality rubbers that I've felt with any sort of surplus mask. It is prone to blooming, but not so much so compared to like Czech masks like the CM4 and OM10. And it is very, very soft and supple. I can see this fitting on a lot of different users' faces. The main thing I don't like regarding the hardware is the clamps. These clamps seem a little bit precarious and loose, and probably not saying that they'll dislodge themselves, but they just seem very, they could have went with a better option, like maybe an Oetker style ear crimp or something like that. Originally these used wire and tape on like the first models and maybe some of the early batch second models, but these third models use obviously some stainless steel clamps. The eyepieces are crimped in, pretty much, exactly the same as a normal M9, whereas the Serbian M2 has the advantage of the lenses being removable. However, I find that the Serbian M2s in their design are a bit stiffer than the Finnish M61. I like the Finnish M61 just for it's more inherently well balanced than the M2, at least in my opinion. It may differ for you, and there's a lot of advantages to the Serbian M2 and M2F that I would say to choose that over this, but this definitely has a lot going for it. So obviously, as you all know, there is a central voice emitter on the front with the Finnish Defense logo, which is a thin aluminum sheet held in place by this by 4 flathead screws on a plastic guard, and a rubber O-ring inside will create the seal. It's not the best quality voice emitter, but it does its job for what it is, especially at this size. There is an outlet valve on the chin, which again, not the greatest design for an outlet valve. I've actually been able to open up one of these, and there are some de-icing spikes inside here, similar to a C15 valve, but ultimately, it doesn't work like a C15 because it's all hard plastic. You can't push this in and de-ice the valve if it gets too much moisture accumulated, which you should expect with this valve. A lot of moisture will collect inside this valve, and because of this inturned lip, I'd imagine it would all start pooling in on the bottom, and if you're in a very cold environment like Finland, obviously it's going to freeze eventually. I'm sure they thought of this and tested it, and it may just work fine. The airflow could be such that it just blows all moisture out of the assembly, but personally I don't like the valve assembly. They should have stuck with the C15 style. Maybe put a rubber deflector on here and then have have this same valve style but with a removable rubber deflector similar to the C15 style. But anyways, not too bad. The head harness is basically where I find the most admiration in this design. It is very simple. There is nothing puncturing the face blank. It is all it is designed to be very simple and low stress. It uses a standard C8 or C8R1 style head harnesses. I'm saying style because it's not a C8 or C8R1, with a canvas head pad and several elasticated straps, which amusingly and quite I enjoy this feature quite a bit. As you can see, they're looped over here, so that even when they're adjusted out all the way, you still have a little bit to grab onto, whereas with most of this style of harness, you have the potential that the clinch tip will sink all the way into the buckle, and it makes it difficult to grab onto and adjust it. And so this was a very thoughtful feature that the Finnish did, of just sewing loops in the harness so that it could be properly grabbed and adjusted in a hurry. The tabs are molded as such, similar to the American style, where they're recessed further up on the temples. Let me get the camera to focus. They are further up on the temples so that the tension caused by the harness will cause the mask to draw the rubber and create a crevice as it's pressed into your temples. It'll create sort of an indent. It presses the mask into the caverns of your face and creates a better seal. And that's in addition to the peripheral seal, which exists on this mask, which I will get into if I stop bumping the camera. This is a very precarious position. I need to figure out a better recording solution for in here. But as you can see, the mask obviously has a peripheral intern seal. The chin cup is a little bit lackluster. You just get more peripheral seal, and it's not the most comfortable, but it works, and it's not uncomfortable. The nose cup, unfortunately, is glued in. That's another feature I'm not too fond of. They could have done with a removable nose cup, but, you know, a little bit better this way, but, you know, gotta work with what you got. Has two nose cup valve discs, which aren't really a necessary feature. I guess they sort of help if the camera would focus on those. But obviously those prevent air from exiting out into the ambient face blank and prevent, you know, too much dead space inside the mask where CO2 can build up and potential fogging of the lenses. However, even with a Avon style nose cup with just a hole in the top, similar to how the Serbian M2 does it, this would work well enough with just a hole. And then obviously below you can see the, if the camera will focus, I doubt you can see that properly on camera, but there is the voice emitter throughout the back, and obviously it's too dark to see the outlet valve. One thing that most people do not know is that these masks do, in fact, have date and manufacturer markings on them. So they're in a very hidden place. It's not like you're going to find them on the exterior of the face blank or anywhere where you'd suspect markings to be. No, the Finnish were very sneaky about this, and they decided to put stamps all underneath the peripheral seal here. If I could get the camera to focus, that would be great. Let me get it to focus right there. There we go. So, reading from this, I can possibly defer. Again, I'm not used to Finnish markings. I assume this is the date production stamps. You have several dates of which the mask were produced in. This isn't like the American clocks, the clock type stamps where you can easily identify when it was manufactured. You can see a 1980 here and a 1985 in the 1990s. So I imagine they print date intervals by you know, increasing by like 5 years each. So production started in 1980 with this face blank and continued assembly all the way through 1985. Or actually, rather, I should say that the mask was completed in 1985 on the fourth quarter of the year. So that's how you can probably tell the dates on those, is just look for the number which has the last amount of dots on it, and however many dots are on that year represent which quarter of the year it was produced in. And obviously you have the side canister port, really simple, it's 60 millimeter, nothing really to mark about that. And obviously you can take a 40 millimeter adapter, and that just screws right into here. If my camera would stop being blurry, again, sorry for this camera. I find the video quality on this camera to be much better, and that's why I'm trying to use it more often, but it is going to come with its teething troubles. Get that to focus. So yeah, don't really need to explain much about this. It's a 40 millimeter adapter. This mask does have different sizes, ranging from 1 to 3, presumably. I'm not sure how the sizing system works. I'm pretty sure a number 2 is a medium, and I'm not sure if it's like the British sizing system where a 1 is a large and a 3 is a small. Again, this is something for probably someone who knows better than me to answer in the comment section, and I can probably heart react that and bump and pin the comment or something. Not much else to say about the mask. Very comfortable, very well functioning, and it's one of the very few surplus masks that I would ultimately trust my life with. The carrier is one of the better quality gas mask carriers, and you can often find these carriers for sale on their own as a standalone carrier bag because they're just so damn useful. It's like Finland took the US M6 lightweight service carrier and they made it less retarded. Like they eliminated that third lifted out snap in the center, and they just overall made it more spacious, and like, I would definitely say that this style of carrier is better for the M9 style of face piece, simply because that the American carrier design seems to have this rhetoric of you need to jam as much shit into one tiny package as possible. And with more people leaving masks stored in the carriers, that can lead to degradation, deformation, and just overall problems in preserving the face piece itself. Whereas with this, it's a very, very spacious affair. Let me get everything out of the way here and just kind of talk about the carrier for a bit. In fact, the only thing I don't like about the carrier is its straps. Not really so much the straps as the buckle system, because it uses these very weird steel snap ring buckles, which, you know, are all right in principle, but just the way they're angled, this would be much better if these were twisted so that the snap hook was facing inwards like this, because as you can see, when you snap these on, like so, the buckle is going to be a little bit twisted up. So not a big complaint. It still works fine. It's just kind of, you know, not what I'm used to, and so I don't generally, I don't want to say I don't like it, but, you know, it's kind of OCD inducing. And then obviously you have a waist strap here. Very comfortable carrier, all said and done. I actually find the M6 style lightweight service carrier to be much more uncomfortable than the Finnish carriers. And looking into the interior of the carrier, you have two main spaces. You have one for the mask with a canister, and then this space here for a spare canister, I would presume, because most people will say you're supposed to put the canister in here separate from the mask, but you have plenty of space in here for a mask with a canister, so I don't really see that being the case. You could definitely store two canisters with one installed on the mask. Similar to how the British S10 and FM12 carriers work, how there's supposed to be a filter stored on the respirator at all times, where you have a spare that's sitting opposite to where the mask is situated. Anywho, you also have a pocket on the inside with two dot-style snap fasteners, which are interestingly painted gray and have this weird texture on it. Kind of reminds me of like German buttons, like German World War II tunic buttons, but I'm not the expert on that. Anyways, opening this up, you have basically just pockets for accessories and other things like the manual, the cleaning cloths, and the cleansing. Most people say it's soap. I'm not sure if it's actually soap. If it is, just let me know, because I have reason to believe it may be like something like Fuller's Earth or some sort of decontamination powder, but most people will say soap, so that's what I'm going to go with for this. And then you have a little internal pocket here, which is presumably for the manual or something similar. Not much to say about that. Very simple, very rugged carrier, which it's honestly one of the best surplus carriers you can get for the money. And that being said, that's really all I have to say on the design. If you were considering this mask, I would definitely recommend it. Even if you were considering a better mask, if you're just a collector and you're wanting a mask, this is probably one of my favorite cheap masks. Definitely choose one of these over, like, say, a GP5 or something, because it's a lot more comfortable, a lot more well-built, and definitely well worth the money, and which obviously it costs about the same, if not maybe $10 more. So, before I ramble on further, that's all I had to say on it. If you have any comments, questions, corrections, or concerns relating to the topic, please feel free to drop them below, and I will see you all later.